Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks.
Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Hey, Coach, great to see you. All right, one of the great resources and people on the LSU campus, without a doubt, is the great Bill Franques. He has like 15 jobs over there. He's a sports information director for baseball. He also does the PA announcing at Ellick Box Stadium. We say he's the voice of God. He's got that great voice, along with doing the color commentary for the radio on the road games, the post-game show with Jay on the home games, and then he types up the report from the game.
Right.
Recap,
yeah.
Bill Franques, thanks for coming down, Bill.
Jacques, it's great to be here. This is a beautiful facility. I'm glad to be able to participate with you guys.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah.
Bill's running around today, coming back from Lafayette, and last night was the national championship ceremony, not to mention Omaha, Nebraska, and another 2 weeks of your life there, right?
That's right. 13 days, but it was a blur. Thinking about it now, man, it's amazing how quickly it all happened. It seemed like from the time that LSU won that walk-off game against Arkansas, through the next 5 days, just a flash. Next thing you know, we're teams holding up the trophy. Man, it was incredible. It really
So
was.
they've been there 20 times.
Yes.
You've been all 20?
I have not, Jacques. I didn't. My first time was 1989. I was a student intern at LSU during Skip's first two trips to Omaha in '86 and '87. I had sort of a auxiliary role with the team, helping out the SID at that time with baseball. So I worked a lot of the home games, but I didn't travel with the team back then. So I was not a part of the '86 and '87 trips to Omaha, those first two.
Yeah.
But every one since then, beginning in 1989, the last 18 I have been. It's been incredible.
So 18 out of 20, you've been there.
Yes.
I'm not good at math, but I think that's 90%.
Yeah, sounds right. That sounds right.
And all 8 national championships.
Yes, I have. 1991, of course, the first one, which was in Skip's 8th season. It took Skip 8 years to get that first one. I even remember, in fact, that season, there was fans were almost getting a little disgruntled with Skip, if you can believe that, because he had, by that time, in 91, LSU had been in 86, 87, 89, and 90. So this was Skip's 5th time to Omaha, and fans were wondering, why hasn't he won it yet? What's wrong? So, of course, in 1991, LSU did win it, just absolutely swept through that field, beat Florida a couple of times, beat Wichita State in the final, beat Fresno State as well, just obliterated everyone that they played. The final game was a little closer, obviously. But, and I distinctly remember sitting in the press box during that game, about the 4th inning, and LSU at the time, maybe it was a close game the whole way. LSU maybe was up by about 3 runs early at that time. I remember thinking, just kind of being swept up with the emotion, the fact that LSU was this close to winning a national championship. It really was an incredible feeling. And at that time, of course, football hadn't reached the levels at which it is now.
Yeah, 1958 was the last one.
In 1991, we were still pining about 1958 as the last football championship. And, of course, the track and field program had risen to great levels by that time under Pat Henry. But this felt a little different. This felt like it was the first, I guess, Big 3 sport championship since that 1958 title. So it really had a lot of significance.
Well, I remember people who didn't even watch a game going out and buying a T-shirt.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Taking pride in national champions.
That's right.
Put that on a shirt.
That's right.
And that was in the day CBS would have the single national championship game on. It was on a Saturday.
It was on Saturday, usually at noon. I think we usually started at noon, very early afternoon in Omaha on that Saturday. Leslie Visser was usually, I think, for the first 2 times, she was the sideline reporter, and she did the post-game interviews with Skip. So that was always really cool to have someone like a great journalist and then television reporter like Leslie Visser participating. Got to meet some great CBS personnel over those years, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, 91 started it. In fact, I remember Skip, this tells you, and this is no surprise to LSU fans, this is the attitude that LSU fans have, which is great. Skip says he remembers, after the trophy ceremony on the field, walking back toward the dugout, holding up the trophy, fans cheering, and someone yells out, "Hey, Bertman, you going to do it again next year?" And Skip's like, God, we just won 10 minutes ago. And they're already asking
And we've
about
never
next year.
won one.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the first one, and
Yeah.
we were talking about back
Look,
to back.
that's the beauty of LSU fans, is that they have a very high standard, of course, and that was just the first one. Now they're 8, so the standard is astronomical now.
Well, I think he told a story one time after they won in 96 and 97 national champions. 98 team might have been one of the best teams that
Right.
never win one. They
Right.
won the first 2. The weather changed.
Yes.
And yes, the weather's the same for both teams, but they
Yeah.
felt like with LSU and their home run hitting,
Correct. That's right.
it really kind of shot them down. 99 was a super regional at Alabama. It didn't go well.
No, not at all. That's right. Alabama
Yeah.
crushed us that weekend. Yeah.
So I remember Skip saying something like, and then they said the game had passed me by.
Yeah,
a
that's
couple of
right.
guys, you know.
That's right.
And then they
Oh,
win
yeah.
the national title in 2000.
Yeah, you're right.
For his 5th. So I think LSU coaches are a lot like presidents. I mean, even the greatest of all time, like Skip Bertman, once you get out of it, you're remembered more positively than
That's
when you
true.
were in it.
That's right. That's a great analogy, Jacques. Because Skip caught his share of criticism even during that incredible 10-year run. I remember the games passed him by. I heard that a number of times in between national championships.
Yeah. And he built, I was thinking about it today. I was trying to make a parallel. He's George Lucas, all right? He created it all, you know. Without him, there's nothing. You know, there's been a lot after what he did. But, I mean, he told the story about he first got there. All he heard was birds in the stands, and there were like 50 people, and they watched the game like this. They would squint, and the PA announcer, you couldn't understand what he was saying.
And the students would go there to study because it was the quietest place on campus. And there, in the locker room, there was food on the walls, broken windows, paint chipping. It just awful. But in fact, the year before Skip arrived at LSU, the 1983 season was the final one before he got here. LSU's average attendance was 422. 422 fans per game was our average attendance before Skip Bertman arrived. And of course, now our average paid attendance is well over 11,000. So that's a true measure of how far it's come.
Yeah, and then at 422, there was probably some youth groups and Boy Scout groups, and hey, let's try to boost this thing up a little bit.
That's right.
We can do a whole show on Skip. It was great that he was there.
Yes, that's wonderful. The fact that Jay Johnson, as of course Paul Maneri did as well. Of course, it's a little different with Paul and Skip because Skip was at the time was the AD and hired Paul as the LSU baseball coach. So they had more of an AD coach relationship. Whereas, of course, Skip had been retired by the time Jay was hired, and Jay and Skip have more of a mentor-student type of relationship, where Skip never oversteps by any means. He just offers suggestions, offers his insight on how he handles certain situations, and Jay really leans on him for advice and for counsel based upon Skip's experiences and Skip's knowledge of this community and knowledge of how LSU operates. And it's been a wonderful relationship. They meet on almost a weekly basis, especially during the season. They talk a lot of baseball, of course, but I think they talk a lot about relationships and how to deal with people, how to deal with kids, how to deal with players' parents. Yeah. And I think it's been a great relationship, and I think Skip has helped Jay tremendously. In fact, he always says, there are many great things about being the LSU head baseball coach, but he said, in Jay's opinion, the best thing is having the relationship with Skip Bertman.
Well, I think Jay and I are the same age. I think I'm 7 months older than he is.
Mm-hmm.
Not even 50, really young.
Yes.
No, but seriously, I mean, he I grew up in Louisiana. He didn't, but he grew up a fan. He was watching Skip Bertman and admiring like I did, like our age group did.
It's funny. We all know, all of us who love LSU and grew up in Louisiana, we all know where we were when Warren Morris hit the home run in 1996 to beat Miami, still the only walk-off home run to end the College World Series. Jay Johnson remembers where he was because he was a fan. Yeah. He was a fan of college baseball. He, at the time, I believe, I can't remember exactly this would have been 96. So I think he was in college. I think he was in college playing ball at Point Loma Nazarene. But he remembers as a young player, being a college baseball fan and watching the College World Series and watching Warren Morris hit that walk-off home run and knowing about Skip Bertman and knowing about the tradition of LSU. A few years later, as he was beginning his coaching career, he bought one of Skip's motivational videos. Skip produced it. You may remember this. Skip produced a motivational video in the late 90s called Winning the Big One. how it was mostly about Skip's motivational methods and how he inspired the players to play at a higher level. And Jay bought that video and watched it and used it as he learned how to become a coach. So when he got here to Baton Rouge 4 years ago, he was very familiar with Skip Bertman's legacy and what had been created at LSU.
Well, and it wasn't for a long period of time, but to think that Skip Bertman and Nick Saban were on the same staff
Yes.
at LSU for a short period of time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, those are two people. I mean, I know Jay Johnson emulates and has read a lot about Nick Saban as well.
He has. Yeah, he said, I mean, it was funny, I think it was the first day I met him. He said, Bill, I know I can't say this out loud, but I really admire, and at the time, now people wouldn't get as upset. At the time, there was still a lot of, a little animosity still.
He's no longer a threat.
Right, that's right. That's right.
He's retired.
Yeah, 4 years ago, he still was in the minds of LSU fans.
Yeah.
But I remember Jay saying, I can't say this out loud, but I really admire Nick Saban. And I want to create at LSU for baseball what Coach Saban has at Alabama for football. So yes, he's certainly read a lot about Coach Saban. I don't believe they've met in person yet, but I know he'd love to do that one day. And now that Nick is retired, maybe he'll have that chance. But yeah, I think he's does remind me a lot of Saban and how detail oriented he is and how hands-on he is with every aspect of his program.
Well, Nick Saban's going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in Natchitoches this weekend. Might be a good time for Jay to run up the road. Although I think the portal and some other things.
Yeah. Tell you what, it's
occupied.
Yeah, he's been. It was today, Thursday. I mean, he's been in his office since we got back Monday evening. He's working on the transfer portal, working on everything that goes in, having exit meetings with the current players. So it really never stops.
Well, and it reminds me, I mean, when I was very young and I just started here, LSU won the national championship in football in 2003. And I remember Saban's post-game press conference.
Yes.
And he said, you don't want to know what I think, because what I'm thinking right now is how are we going to do this next year? This is 15 minutes after they won.
That's right. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
The same thing.
Same thing. Oh, yeah. And I do remember, I think that same night, I think I've heard stories of Nick being concerned because LSU had played in the national championship game, they were behind on recruiting.
Yeah.
Because at that time, of course, still the big signing day was early February. So he felt like, man, we got to catch up on recruiting. So that was also in his head.
Yeah.
It's funny because 2 years ago when Jay won his first national title with our baseball team, same thing kind of happened. Like he actually missed out on some recruits because we were in Omaha till the very end. And he tells the story that one guy who ended up pitching in Tennessee was committed to LSU, but because we weren't back yet and the guy couldn't come in for a personal visit, we lost him to Tennessee because we were winning the national championship. So that's the way the timetable works sometimes.
Well, two quick things. I heard the story about Saban berating Sam Nader in the locker room after the national championship. We're behind on our recruiting. And all that. I don't think it was really Sam's fault.
No, I don't think so.
But anyway, Nick needed somebody to explode on, and Sam. Oh well, okay, you know, and the greatest ever there, Sam Nader.
He is.
And also. The whole championship thing, I lost my train of thought, but I know what I would say. The calendar is messed up.
Yes.
Because even in women's basketball, so I'm talking to Bob Starkey the other day. He's like, well, we're playing UCLA to go to the Final Four.
Right.
And we got to spend 5 hours that day talking to people on Zoom calls, whatever, because the portal's open.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah,
it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think the coaches have expressed some concern about that, obviously, and maybe there'll be some changes where the timetable will allow the recruiting, the transfer portal window not to interfere, especially with those teams that are vying for a national championship, playing at the highest level of the sport.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to talk about all that. I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So you just said, you mentioned Warren. You mentioned Warren Morris. It could be 30 years next year. He hit that thing.
Yes. June 8th, 1996. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be the 30-year anniversary
right.
of. I mean, I think of moments where we all knew where we were, like you just mentioned a while ago. Hudson to Fuller, to me, the earthquake. I mean, I always remember that.
Yes.
But, Billy Cannon, obviously I'm too young for that.
Right.
But Warren Morris, I mean, a home run to win a national championship in walk-off fashion.
Right.
And everyone can see it in the head, him rounding the bases.
Oh, yeah.
Your call.
Yeah, I was there.
You
I was in the booth.
Up, right?
I was in the booth. Yeah, I got pretty emotional because Jim Hawthorne was the voice of the Tigers at that time, and Jim did a masterful professional job in describing what had happened, and he was pretty excited.
That's way back there.
Yeah. I've never been Jim's right before the swing. I'll never forget. Jim said, "Well, the Tigers need a." What did he say? Need a wild pitch, a pass ball, or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Wild pitch. Yeah.
Because Brad Wilson's by this time. Brad Wilson's at third base. with 2 outs. So and Jim's thinking, well, the ball gets past the catcher, Wilson can come home, but no one's wildest dreams were we thinking a home run to win the game. Now, when I remember Warren swings at the first pitch. It was a breaking ball by Robbie Morrison, and Warren reaches down and golfs it, and I'm thinking it's a double. It looked like to me it was a low line drive. I'm thinking double off the wall. We at least tie the game, but it just had enough to get over. And of course, it was definitely the most emotional moment of so many that I've experienced with LSU baseball, and just this year. There were quite a number of those. And of course, the walk-off win over Arkansas is something I'll never forget this year.
Well, Patrick Coogan was sitting right there where you're sitting there. They were talking about that.
Yeah.
He said, because of that home run, I went from the losing pitcher
That's
in the
correct.
national championship
That's correct.
to the winner. I gave up back-to-back doubles off the top,
That's right.
top of the ninth.
That's right.
But he just said so blessed that he was part of it.
That's
and he
right.
said that Warren Morris was the perfect person to hit that home run because in the now almost 30 years past it, no one has carried that on better, been a better ambassador
You're right, Jeff.
of that play.
You're right. You're true. Warren is now he's back in his hometown of Alexandria. He's been there. Of course, he reached the big leagues, played in the big leagues for Detroit and for Pittsburgh. So he spent a few seasons in the big leagues after he retired from baseball. He's been with the Red River Bank up in Alexandria, a very successful career. One of his daughters is an LSU student and an LSU bat girl right now. So
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she's an LSU bat girl. So Warren, he's come back, of course, a number of times over the years, and in fact, I believe it was this season he came to a game. We recognized him during one of our games. I believe he's either the Tennessee or the Arkansas regular season series. But, yeah, you're right. What a wonderful example of perseverance, of virtually coming from a nobody in terms of college baseball recruiting. He was a walk-on. Mm-hmm. He walked on to the LSU baseball program in 1993. He was a part of that of the second national championship team. Didn't play, was redshirted, was still part of the program, and practiced with guys like Todd Walker and Russ Johnson and Jason Williams every day. Got better and better, and then of course he emerged as to one of our better players by the time he got older in his career. Was hurt through that whole '96 season until he came back in the postseason and of course delivered those heroics.
Wow. Other, before we move into the present, the 2000 team, and I felt like, I don't know, you can agree or not, but like that 96 game against Miami and then the 2000 at Stanford, it almost felt like, well, the bad guys have too much. They might be a little too good for us today.
That it definitely felt that way. I remember at Miami, about midway through the game, had a 7-3 lead over LSU, and I do remember thinking that, man, these guys are so good. They had Pat Burrell as their third baseman, who I believe was only a freshman that year. But, of course, Pat Burrell went on to have a great major league career with Philadelphia. I believe won a World Series ring with the Phillies. But they had Alex Cora was their shortstop. Of course, now the manager, or is he still the manager of the Red Sox? But a World Series winning manager with the Red Sox. Alex Cora has had a great major league career as a player and as a manager.
And you brought back the guy that gave up the home run.
Robbie Morrison.
Robbie Morrison. You brought him back.
He actually.
Are you surprised he did that?
Yeah, that's a really cool story that he stayed connected with LSU despite what I would imagine is the most heartbreaking moment of his baseball career. He and Warren, I believe, have stayed in touch. And he stayed in touch with some LSU people, and he came back to a game, and we actually recognized him at the new box, of course, at the current stadium. And that was a really neat story that he's gone on. It sounds like he's had a very successful life, raised a family, and he's moved past that disappointment, which I'm so happy to hear, because that was a tough moment.
Well, I mean, there's two choices, and he made the right choice.
That's right. You're right.
Lean into it, embrace it. Hey, it happened.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to sit around and be when it happened. He was 21, 22 years old or whatever. For the next 60 years of my life, I'm going to be depressed about this.
No, that's
pitch.
right. You're right.
So
he chose strength over being miserable. So that's great for him. But that's a great story. But in 2000, you're right. I kind of felt the same way. In the Miami game, it felt like maybe we were being overwhelmed by their offense. The Stanford game in 2000, it felt like we were being overwhelmed by their pitching.
Yeah.
The guy who started, young, Justin Jason Young was the starting pitcher.
Look at you.
Jason Young was, I think Young went the first 4 or so. Then they bring in Justin Wayne. And
Who was like the 4? I know this because I just looked it up there.
Yeah,
he was
okay.
like the 5th pick in the draft?
Yeah. He was a superstar. I mean, a stud.
Because Ryan Theriot said the first guy that started,
Yeah.
he goes, I ain't getting a hit off of this guy.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I'm just like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they bring this other guy in.
Yeah, who was even better. Yeah, Jason Young was great as a starter, but Justin Wayne's just carving us up. I remember he struck out Brad Cressy at one point, I think on 3 pitches. So they looked pretty hopeless. So it's 5-2 going into the bottom of the 8th. We're the home team. And Blair Barbier, prior to that 8th inning, gathers the team up, delivers a motivational speech. It's something the players still talk about 25 years later, about how committed Brad was to not letting this team lay down, that as desperate as it seemed, LSU was not going to go down without a fight. And as we remember, of course, Blair hits a home run in that 8th inning to make it 5-3. And then the Tigers keep the rally going. Wally Pontiff got a walk. And then Jeremy Witten, who was batting at the very bottom of the lineup, hits a 2-run homer against Justin Wayne that ties the game in the bottom of the 8th inning. It was just incredible. And then, of course, Trey Hodges was our stud reliever that year. Trey sets down Stanford 1-2-3 in the top of the 9th, and that sets the stage for Ryan Theriot to single, Mike Fontenot to walk, and Brad Cressy, who looked, Brad even said himself, I looked silly against Justin Wayne earlier in the game. This time, he lines a Wayne pitch into left field, and Theriot scores the winning run.
And Theriot had watched apparently a million times Armando Rios
Yes.
grab his helmet and throw
In
it
'93, yeah.
And he did the exact same
He
thing.
did the exact same thing.
Wasn't
That's right.
rehearsed or whatever, contrived. It just, that's what happened.
And as Ryan said, because that was, of course, that was, as you know, that was one of Skip's most powerful training methods or motivational methods, was the use of video. At the time, it was pretty groundbreaking back in the 90s. Now, of course, we're so conditioned to it. But he had the old VHS tapes, and he would, for every game, he'd play the boys a video of great athletic achievements, a lot of them being LSU baseball. And so Theriot had seen that play of Armando Rios scoring the winning run against Long Beach State in the '93 semifinal of the CWS. He had seen it so many times that in his brain he was conditioned to react the way he did.
Yeah, amazing. And so now, now we've had 2 and 3 years national champions. And correct me if I'm wrong, this LSU team does something that no team has ever done, and that is win the national championship series in 2 games. Because in 2009, that went 3.
It did.
17, unfortunately, lost both.
Lost both, yeah.
And then 23 went 3. So this is the
That's right.
first team ever in this new format.
That's correct. You're exactly right. First team to win, to sweep the championship series in LSU history. 4th team to reach that series in this format. Of course, LSU now 3-1 in the format. This format for best 2 or 3 in the championship series began in 2003. Yeah. So all 5 of Skip's titles were won with that single championship game, and then the last 3, 09 over Texas, 23 over Florida, 25 over Coastal Carolina in the series.
Yeah. And 2023, I mean, this is my opinion. I felt like that team was under the gun and under a lot of pressure from day one.
I think you're right, Joe. I think you're right. I think you're exactly
Dylan
right. Dylan
Cruz is back. Trey Morgan, all these guys are back.
Oh, my God, they have Tommy White, who led the nation in home runs last year. You got Paul Skeens, he throws 100. So, how can this team not win? And I do remember thinking that there was a lot of pressure. Like, there was very high expectations placed on that team the whole way through.
Yeah, and it's LSU, so you could say that, I guess, every year. Yeah. But just conversationally throughout the year, when I felt like people were saying, this is a good team, they may make it to Omaha, they might win a game or 2. They're not national championship caliber.
I got that same vibe. Yeah, I think you're right. No, I didn't feel that way, but I heard a lot of people say that. Yeah.
Well, and then if you would say before the year, hey, Cade Anderson is going to, I don't want to say be as good, but be in the same category as Paul Skeens.
Right.
You'd be like, what?
Yeah, I know.
And he was.
He really was. Remarkable. 180 strikeouts, 3rd highest total in LSU history, behind only Paul Skeens and Ben McDonald. Led the nation in strikeouts. In fact, just today, Baseball America named him the National Pitcher of the Year, which is obviously what he should be.
Awesome.
Because he was just incredible all year long. And I don't think anyone could have expected Cade. Everyone knew Cade was very talented, but he didn't pitch his senior year in high school because of Tommy John surgery. He pitched very well at times last year in a midweek starting role, and you first saw the glimpses of what he would become in that Chapel Hill Regional at the very end of last season. He pitched twice in one day in relief and was dominant, especially against North Carolina in a game LSU won. And so you have the feeling that he could be, would be very prominent. You knew he'd be in the rotation, but no one realized that he would be the number one pitcher and arguably the best pitcher. Well, definitely not arguably, the best pitcher in the nation this season. And then, of course, Anthony Ianson, what an impact that kid made. Jay said that he was the most important transfer that LSU needed to acquire last summer in July. LSU got him, and he was, if not for Kate Anderson, we'd be talking about Anthony Ianson as the National Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah. I was just curious. I looked it up at UC San Diego, which is where he came from.
Yeah.
And their stadium capacity is 500.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about, he makes that jump to go in front of 25,000 in Omaha.
Right.
Gets handed the ball. Hey, we need you today to win a national championship.
Yep.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the many reasons why Jay liked Anthony so much. He liked his demeanor. He liked his composure. He could tell that he'd be the type of kid who could handle that type of environment, who could jump from the 500 at UC San Diego to the 10, 11,000 at Alec Box Stadium, on the road in some of the hostile SEC venues, and ultimately in Charles Schwab Field in front of 25,000. He was a guy who had a very, very slow heartbeat. He faced a lot of tough situations, had some rough starts in some of his outings, but always maintained his composure, always found the rhythm at some point, and always gave the Tigers a chance to win.
I don't know if it was dry humor or what, but after the Super Regional, he said something like, when I throw pitches down the dirt and they swing and miss, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
And everyone laughed.
Yeah.
And he was like dead serious.
Yeah. Anthony's that type of guy. Man, Jay always called him, just elite competitor. From a baseball perspective, strike thrower, can throw any pitch in any count for strikes. He and Nate Yeske, our pitching coach, really had a great relationship. And Jay called him, Jay also referred to him one day as Apollo Creed, because he said he's probably the best conditioned baseball player I've ever coached. He said he was an elite athlete. He said he had to fight off Brian Kelly from Brian trying to steal him over and bring him over to football as a tight end or a running back. So, just obviously a huge acquisition in the transfer portal. And as Jay said, he needed the right players, but he also needed the right people to join this team when he went out into the portal last summer. And he got those right people like Ianson, like Danny Dickinson, like all the guys who made such a big impact for this team. Chris Stanfield as well. Just all of those guys were fantastic.
And the Chase Shore story for him to become the hammer down the stretch.
Oh, that was great. I was so proud of Chase Shore. I thought that was a great story, Jacques. He, of course, was on the 23 team. He was the first real high-profile high school signee of Jay's tenure at LSU. And because he had been committed to another school, Jay didn't say who it was. I'm almost positive it had to be either Texas or Texas A&M. He's from Midland, Texas. But Trace decommitted from the other Power 5 school to sign with Jay Johnson and LSU. And Jay said that to him that really was a signature moment for the program, because that demonstrated to other high-profile recruits that if Chase Shores wants to go to LSU, maybe that's where I want to be too.
Yeah.
And of course, Chase out of Midland, Texas, comes in his freshman year. We've got some great arms on that club, as you remember. But Chase was making big strides as a relief pitcher in that first season. He's pitching against Tennessee late March, feels something in his elbow. Turns out he's got a serious elbow injury, has the Tommy John surgery, misses the rest of 23, misses all of 24, and then comes back this year as a starting pitcher. Because remember, he got hurt early in 23, so I think he only had maybe 19 innings of college experience going into this year. So Jay and Nate said, let's start him so we can get him some of that experience, get him some innings. And he did relatively well as a starter. But it seemed as if once he was moved full-time into that relief role, when he just let it rip and just put everything he had into every pitch, that's when he really flourished.
Yeah, and I guess that's a decision for next year, right? Same spot or start him? Or...
Yeah, if he comes back.
That's right.
Yeah. I tell you what, because he is eligible for the draft, of course, and, man, I think obviously a lot of scouts were watching the College World Series, and they saw him, zinging pitches 101, 102 in dominating fashion. in my mind, I
Yeah.
would think he'd be pretty high on the scouts' radar.
Yeah, well, and we assume obviously Kate Anderson's going to be a top 5
Yes,
pick.
yes.
Ionson's gone as well.
Losing a lot of big arms. for
Yeah,
sure.
and sometimes there's some gray area when I look at the roster and I'm trying to decide, okay, who's going to come back or not, because you can have draft eligible sophomores as
Right,
well,
right.
and so
I know even during the year, Jay kind of mentioned off the record, but we can say it now. I think that there are some guys who are in that gray area who you'd love to see come back. Zach Cowan is one. And Zach Cowan is eligible to come back for his senior year, and I think if he came back, would be a huge piece, just as he was this year in the pitching staff. Other guy who may have played his way into the draft is Ethan Fry. Ethan Fry is a huge prospect. I mean, as you know, great athlete. Really came on this year as a hitter once he got the full-time DH role. So it'll be interesting to see how high Ethan is on the draft boards. My understanding is he's risen pretty high as well. So, I hope. But if those guys choose the professional baseball route, I know Coach Johnson just wants whatever's best for that individual. That's what he'll agree to.
Yeah, and that's got to be a tough thing for Ethan too, because he's a Louisiana kid. And
Yeah.
He's living the dream,
Yeah.
and it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I got to choose between.
Right.
Maybe going back to back, winning another national
Yeah,
title,
yeah,
or should I do? Is it the smart thing to take the money? Or,
Yeah, and those are the conversations that's when we said Jay's busy. Those are the types of conversations he's having right now. All the exit meetings he's having with the current players, and that's part of the discussion. Is what does your future hold? Is it to return to LSU, or perhaps start your professional baseball career?
And just the team in Omaha itself. You've been there a lot of times. The conditions this time around with the heat combined with the wind.
Yeah.
Now I'm not complaining about it. I got the best job in the world. I'm at the World Series. I'm not, but I'm just saying it was the least pleasant. I thought.
Oh, there's no doubt.
It was so hot and so windy.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah, and the wind. Normally, when you think of wind, you think of the wind providing some relief from the heat.
Yeah,
it did
cooling
not
us
provide,
down.
It did not provide any relief at all. It was just like a blow dryer, like a hair dryer, just blowing in your face all the time. So yeah, it was definitely the most unpleasant conditions that weekend, that championship weekend.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the weather was very warm, but it was comfortable.
Yeah.
And it had been mostly warm and comfortable 2 years ago. So this was by far the most intense, most uncomfortable heat we've experienced over the years in Omaha, and especially that day game, the final game of the season on Sunday when Ionson pitched. You had to be in good shape and good condition to withstand those conditions.
Yeah, well, shout out to Chris Martin, not the lead
Yes.
singer of Coldplay, but the strength and conditioning coach at LSU, his first year this year.
Yeah.
I had a small chat with him the other day. We were talking about the West Virginia Super Regional at the box.
Right, that's right.
The Saturday game was
Yes.
just scorching.
Yes.
And strength and conditioning, some people say, oh, baseball, they just stand around. Well,
No.
the pitcher and the catcher.
Yeah.
Those two guys, Kate Anderson pitched the first game.
He did.
And you got your guy behind the plate there. I'm going blank too.
Hernandez. Who another great transfer, by the way. Another high character guy who really made a difference this year.
Right, and one of the more memorable moments, right? I mean, Arkansas, they might have felt like, hey, we got the team, and they were going to have to beat LSU twice, obviously.
Right.
But he hits that ball into left field,
Yes.
and it volleyballs off the left fielder to score 2 runs.
Right.
And before you know it, Jerry Jones wins the game.
Just that was incredible. I was, of course, in the ninth inning, I go down from the radio booth, and I'm down near the dugout, so I'll be in position for the post-game media activities. And so I'm standing almost exactly where I was standing when Tommy White hit the walk-off homer against Wake Forest 2 years ago to send LSU to the finals. So I thought, well, let me see if I can kind of position myself in the same spot. However, in that game, LSU was the home team, bottom of the ninth inning, or bottom of the 11th inning, score was tied at 0. So this time, bottom of the ninth inning, LSU's down by 2 runs. And John Pearson strikes out to start the inning. So 1 out, nobody on base, down by 2 runs. It didn't look too good. But I tell you what, Derek Curiel, as he's done all year, put a ball in play. Got to second base on the throwing error after he put the ball in play. Ethan Fry draws a walk. Milam hits the ball to the shortstop, Aloy. Aloy perhaps made the wrong decision, gets the out at third instead of trying to turn a double play. And then that sets the stage for Hernandez. And I remember from where I was stationed, I could see the pitcher, the Arkansas pitcher, Cole Gibler. And I could see the mound, I could see the plate, I could see the batter. I could not see the outfield, the left fielder. So I see Luis swing, and man, I could tell he hit it well. But then I look, and I can't see it live, but then I look up at the video screen, and I can see Davalon, the left fielder, in position on the video screen. I'm thinking, oh, man, what a shit. What a way to end the game. At least just scorch this ball, and the guy's going to catch it. And I think he got a bad jump or a bad read. Then he kind of slipped. And next thing you know, it's bouncing off his shoulder and ricocheting all the way into the corner.
It was almost like an optical illusion.
It really was.
Quickly the ball, like, it's here and then it's way over here.
Yeah,
like
it was amazing. It really was.
Yeah.
And
well, John Eads did an amazing job covering the team all year. So
Yeah.
he was up there covering them, and the plan all along was if they make it to championship, I'll go up and
Yeah.
hopefully not jinx them like I did in 2017.
Right, that's right.
But I was at we're two older guys. I was at the Hart concert at the Centroplex, and so
hey.
we're watching it on the phone, watching Hart.
Yeah.
Ann Wilson and Nancy Wilson, both in their 70s now. So,
I loved them when I was a kid. Oh, my goodness.
yeah,
Players.
you got that on the playlist at the box, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I saw, well, not to digress too far, but I saw Hart in concert in 1986 at the PMAC.
All
It
right.
was fantastic. But
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I'm glad they're still going.
Yeah, well, they're doing the encore. They're doing Barracuda, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah.
dun, dun. And everyone's getting into it. We're watching it, and just as the concert ends and everyone's cheering is when Jared Jones hits it off, wins the game. These two things like happened simultaneously. It was a great night.
Yes.
It's a great night. Got on a plane the next day and made my way up there. This team, too, and this generation of NIL and transfer portal, fans are turned off by me, I, and I don't know anything about what these guys are getting paid,
Right.
and everything. But it does seem that they were all bought in.
Yes, I agree. I agree with
Team
that.
above me. What's the saying?
Yeah, Jay had T-shirts printed up before the season. It said "Team above me." Tough and together was a primary mantra of the team, and they really lived those slogans every day. They really were. They were very tough. Obviously, they stayed together. They placed the needs of the team above the needs of themselves, and that appeared to be extremely genuine. All the guys, as you know, whenever they would talk to you guys in the media, they talk about how they literally love to come to the ballpark every day to be with their teammates, to be with their friends, to be with their guys that they were going to learn and grow and develop with. And that seemed to be an extremely sincere emotion. And to me, it had to be. In order for them to get where they needed to be, to get to the pinnacle of their sport, they needed to have that kind of unity. And I think it really did show.
Some parallels between Michael Braswell III and Jordan Thompson a little bit with the struggles and, you know, a little I think Jordan might have even had a couple errors. I don't quite remember.
In fact, in the game 2 of the finals against Florida, he had a couple. Of course, the game was a blowout by Florida, but Jordan did have a rough night defensively in that game also.
But, you know, struggles at the plate.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think Jordan and Michael, I mean, pretty solid defensive players overall, right?
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
And Coach made it clear that, hey, without Braswell, we don't win the national title.
That's right. That's right. Now, Braswell did not have a great year offensively. I think everyone admits that. And you can look at the numbers and tell that. But his defense was superb at third base all year long. He made several key plays. And really, it seems like in every game, there was a point at which a Michael Braswell defensive play either ended an inning or really helped to nullify what could be a big inning for the other team. I remember especially the first out of the 9th inning of Cade Anderson's complete game shutout. That was a very tough play. If Coastal Carolina gets the leadoff man on as a tying run, it might be a whole different game. But Braswell makes that play, and Anderson goes on to finish the game in a 1-0 victory. But offensively, though he didn't have a great batting average, Braswell, as Jay said, he moved the baseball. He was very effective with the sac bunt. He usually would put the ball in play, and so he made plays that helped the team or helped the team be in the best position to win. So, yeah, absolutely. He contributed in a huge way. Steve
Monster Milam said, I think he called LSU shortstop you.
Yeah.
And talked about Bregman.
Yep.
Obviously, Austin Nola, too.
Yep.
Right, guys like that. And he was tremendous on the infield.
You know, there were times, he was struggling at the plate for a long – he got off to a great start offensively, as most of the team did. And then, of course, we hit that part of the schedule where you're playing elite SEC teams, top 10 teams, virtually every week. And Stevens' batting average dropped a bit. Looks like he was really struggling at the plate. But wow, he found it in the biggest moments of the season in the NCAA tournament. He led the team with 13 runs batted in. And then his defense, though his offense wasn't at its best the whole year, his defense never suffered. He didn't. I remember Coach Monero used to talk about not allowing your struggles at the plate to carry over to your defense.
Yeah.
And Steven never allowed that to happen. His defense was just superb, as we know. 5 errors the whole season. That's unheard of for a shortstop.
Yeah.
As many chances as a shortstop has during a baseball game to make only 5 errors.
And he was responsible for the only run in Game 1 of the National Championship Series.
That's right. First inning.
You know, we joked winning is the ultimate deodorant, but, you know, there were a lot of guys that day who just were struggling offensively, and he came through. And that one run held up.
That's right. That's
in
right.
the first inning the whole way.
That's right.
Jake Brown. Is he intentionally funny, unintentionally funny, a mixture of both? This guy is not only a very good baseball player, but he's comic relief as well.
He really is. He is. First of all, he's an electric baseball player. Jay describes him as a 5-tool guy. He can do it all, and he's a great athlete. Hits with power, can run, plays good defense. I mean, he does it all on the field. Off the field, he's one of the wittiest players I've ever come across at LSU. He's very funny in a sort of a deadpan, self-deprecating way. He made the comment, of course, a lot about, we're just here to play baseball. We're not scholars by any means. But ironically, Jake Brown has a very high GPA and is one of the smartest players on the team. So I think he said that kind of tongue-in-cheek. But he said that in order to someone asked about how describe Jay Johnson's coaching methods, and Jake's point was he does a great job of simplifying things so that we understand exactly what needs to be done. There are no gray areas.
Yeah.
Everything's very clear. And so that's when he said, it has to be simple for us. We're not scholars. We're baseball players. But anyway, Jake, he's tremendous. I mean, he made a huge leap as well. That sophomore class from last year who gains valuable experience, including Milam, including Jake Brown, Ashton Larson, another guy who's going to continue to be important in this program. That core group of sophomores that came back, they really made a big jump, and Jake was definitely among our best players in the most important part of the season. He had several clutch hits. That 2-run pinch hit single in the last game against Arkansas, which at the time gave LSU a lead, that was a huge hit because up to that point, LSU hadn't scored in the game. And I think that helped maybe boost some confidence of the club.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was the regular season finale of the last series, South Carolina. He hit one, I think it left the stadium.
Yeah.
There were kids on the berm they were running, and then they watched it. It like bounced onto the street.
Yeah.
He had some deep shots there as well. And, just everyone did their part. Chris Stanfield, what a great human being,
man.
right? And
Love
on top
him.
of being a great player.
Love him. I first met Chris. Well, of course, I watched Chris Stanfield pound LSU pitching for 2 years when he played at Auburn. Now, he famously got 2 hits off of Paul Skeens when LSU played at Auburn back in 2023. And of course, Jay Johnson said, every time we play Auburn and I'm scouting Auburn, this Stanfield guy is really, really special. So as soon as Jay realized that Chris had entered the portal, he called him and he said, and Chris didn't have great numbers necessarily statistically, but Jay just liked him. He liked his presence, liked the way he played. And at the time, I didn't realize what a great human being Chris is as well. And when I got to meet him in the fall, first thing I told him was, Chris, I'm so glad to see you wearing an LSU uniform and not an Auburn uniform anymore. And he laughed. And he's just as humble and as grounded a young man as you can imagine, has been active in the Miracle League of Baton Rouge and donating funds to help sustain that great charity. He's a first-class guy. He won the Tony Gwynn Community Service Award this year and couldn't have gone to a better person. And all the team just obviously loves what Chris Stanfield brought to the atmosphere.
A few more things with the great Bill Franques here, and I guess that's a sign of great coaching to look beyond the numbers because when they got Braswell, I'm looking at him like this guy's a 250 hitter at South Carolina.
Right.
Why are they getting this guy?
Yeah.
But intangibles and
that's right.
Other things, and obviously it played out.
Yeah, Jay
Good
said
get.
that. He said that a lot. I've heard him say that a lot, Jacques. It's not so much about numbers. It's more about, I like the way this guy carries himself. I like the way this guy plays. I like the way this guy reacts to adversity. Josh Pearson's a good example. You look at Josh Pearson's career numbers, you think, well, this guy's nothing special. When you think about all the unbelievable clutch moments in which he performed. The fact that he was on an NCAA regional all-tournament team for the first 3 years of his career.
Yeah.
This year didn't play as big a role in postseason, but still, when he got the chance, grand slam in the super regional against West Virginia. So it's guys like that, like the Pearsons, the Braswells, the Stanfields, that don't light up the stat sheet necessarily, but do what needs to be done in order for your team to win.
Well, obviously his catch against Florida in Game 1
Yep.
of the National Championship Series
Yep.
saves the whole National Championship.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Jay
That's
said
right.
we weren't set up for our pitching the next
Yeah,
day,
that's right.
and if it's
Yeah.
over his head, Florida wins Game 1.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and he asked Pearson about it after the game, and he's like, "Well, it's a fly ball."
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
Yeah, that was funny.
it's just
Yeah.
no big deal.
Right, yeah, that's right. That's right.
I mean, I could go through all the guys. I don't
Sure.
want that would take forever.
Sure.
But Dickinson, was it the same injury as Morris? The same hand?
I believe so.
Hand injury.
Jay, I had no idea until Jay reveals that at the final press conference of the College World Series that Danny Dickinson's been playing with a broken hamate bone, which is exactly what Warren had.
Yeah.
Apparently he broke it in the first game of the regional against Little Rock. Game he hit 2 home runs, so he continued to play with a broken hamate bone for 10 more games. And we kind of I remember thinking, of course, Jay moved Danny down in the lineup, and he wasn't producing quite as much at the plate. And we think, gosh, Danny's really dropped a little bit. But now we know why.
Yeah.
And despite that, he still had 6 hits in the College World Series and still made great plays defensively. Still, like Braswell, moved the baseball with some big bunts. And, yeah, a lot of credit to that young man.
Yeah, he laid down some nice bunts. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, Danny Dickinson's quite the bunter as well.
Yeah.
So just working with Jay.
Yeah.
So I told him yesterday, I said, just some silly math in my head. I said, well, if you coach here 25 more years and you win even one national championship every 5 years, you'd finish with 7 national titles. Now, I don't know if anyone was ever going to catch Skip Bertman or pass him.
Right.
And then he said something, I don't know if I got 25 years in the
Right.
tank.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, Saban coached till he was 71, 72. I could
Yeah.
easily see you doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
But,
48. You're right.
And
Yeah.
some fan out there is probably saying 1 every 5 years. He's won
Yeah,
2 and 4.
right, yeah,
He's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
win one every
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
He might. I don't know.
Yeah.
But just looking at it from that perspective, this guy is 48 years old, 2 national championships in the last 3 years. He's not going anywhere.
No.
He's not interested in coaching Major League Baseball.
No.
I'm sure maybe one day a Texas or something might throw $1 billion at him.
I'm sure that's going to happen at some point.
But hopefully he stays here.
Yes,
But if
definitely.
he does stay here for, let's just say, another 20 years, what's the possibility?
Yeah, possibilities are incredible. I mean, I said it last night during our celebration. I said, he's 2 championships in the last 3 years. He's created the next generation of national champions, and he's just getting started. And I think that's exactly the attitude he has, much like Coach Saban did after winning the first championship here and on throughout his years at Alabama. He's not going to stop. He's going to that drive, that desire is going to continue to fuel him to keep LSU where it is right now.
What's he like to work with?
He's great. He's I mean, and you guys talk to him, and he is maybe not as outgoing as a Paul Maneri or as humorous as Skip was at times in his dealings with the media.
Maneri would talk to you like in a midweek game getting off the bus.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
hey,
Right.
you need me? Jay's not doing that. It's not a criticism. It's just different.
Right. Yeah, our media availabilities are much more structured and scheduled on a regular basis with Jay than under Paul. Is a little more, I wouldn't say unorganized, but a little more free, I guess you'd say. The team is a little more accessible, but team is still accessible, but in a much more organized or structured way. And Jay, though he may not speak as much as Paul did, I think when he does speak, he gives very sincere, very detailed answers. He answers every question. It's rare that he won't answer a question or that he's vague about anything. I think he's extremely articulate. He's extremely thoughtful, and he's been great for us to work with. He's always very grateful for everything that I do, and all those, our photographers, our videographers, anyone who works in the communications realm, social media realm. He's extremely grateful for everyone that assists his program.
Yeah. Well, Maneri used to do his Monday things in his office.
Yeah.
I have never been in Jay Johnson's office. to this point. Not that I need
That's
to.
not
or
personal
whatever.
by any means.
No.
Yeah,
I'm just joking. I'm talking.
Yeah.
And Maneri's office was like a baseball museum.
Yeah.
He had pictures of like Tommy Lasorda and all these famous people on the wall over the years.
He's the best. He's the greatest.
Hall of Fame coach and everything.
Yeah.
It's everyone's different, and obviously everything is working.
Yeah.
To this point, tell me about the celebration. It went very well. Skip was there.
Yeah, it was fun. A lot of fun. Had a good crowd there. We were thinking. In my mind, I was thinking 2 years ago. Remember when LSU won it in 23? It had been 14 years between national championships for LSU baseball. So I think maybe since it was something that hadn't happened in a long time, I think the celebration maybe drew more people. Yeah. But last night we had, I think, maybe a smaller crowd because this is the second time we won it in 3 years. Yeah. But it was still a great crowd, very enthusiastic, extremely grateful for what the team accomplished. I think our fans, as you know, make such a huge impact upon the game and upon the players and the coaches, and they recognize that. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good turnout. Young country singer by the name of Timothy Wayne gave a little concert for about 30 minutes. I thought that was really cool, a good way to segue into the ceremony. We got a chance to hear from some of the players, and the governor was there. Coach Edwards was there, our mayor president. Board of Supervisors chairman was there, Scott Ballard. Our president, Matt Lee, was there. They all spoke and said some great things about Jay and the team. So it was a great night for LSU, and the fireworks show at the end was really spectacular. It was very impressive. So I thought it was the fitting way to honor this team and a fitting way to cap off the 2025 season.
Yeah, LaBerge Casino in downtown Baton Rouge have a tough act to follow. 4th of July fireworks show.
There you go. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
It was, quite explosive. A couple other things. Timothy Wayne, 21 years old, the nephew of Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
And I was in there when he was sound checking, and when he did Louisiana Saturday Night and Call in Baton Rouge. I said, well, those two songs definitely will go over
of course.
very well. And the crowd, Bill, it's like the Jell-O shot thing. Like 2 years ago, first time LSU fans were really involved in that Jell-O shot, and they had 68,000. So this time, still very, very strong, just like, well, we don't need to do as many as last time. So I don't know if they ended up with 48,000, whatever it was up there. And the people at Rocco's told me I think they're going to try to do a Rocco's on the road where they come to Baton Rouge for an LSU football game this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We'll see if that happens.
That.
So you personally, how long do you think you're going to do this? We hope you never leave.
Yeah, Jacques, I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. Jay has told me on several occasions, Bill, you cannot retire. In fact, on the field after the game, Jay Johnson's dad told me, Bill, you cannot retire. Jay's dad is for those who don't know, Jay's dad was a great high school football coach in Northern California. Yeah. And, of course, Jay learned so much under him how to be a coach, and Jay played football, was a great football and baseball player. But anyway, Coach Jerry Johnson, the big guy, the big Coach Johnson, he told me, Bill, you can't retire either. So, but I have no immediate thoughts of retiring. I mean, it's still – I've been so fortunate for 37 years to have been a part of this LSU baseball program and met so many wonderful people. I mean, still to see the former players who are active in our community and active in other communities. Yeah. It's great to run across all those guys and experiences that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I ran up to get a hamburger yesterday. And who's in line with me? Eddie Yarnell.
There you go.
He's said, your name came up the other day when Kate Anderson threw that shutout.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That was 90.
In 96, Eddie didn't throw a shutout, but he threw a similar game against a 2-1 win over Florida.
Okay.
That put us into the finals that year.
Gotcha.
And of course, Brett Laxton was the only other guy.
Laxton is who I'm thinking.
Laxton had the shutout against Wichita State in the championship game in '93.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I got here in 2001, and the sports information directors at the Big Three Sports were Michael Bonnet in football, Kent Lowe in men's basketball, and Bill Franques in baseball, and nothing has changed. So that's great, right?
Yeah. I think that's rare in our industry. There might be a couple other schools where the median age is in our range, but no, I'm very grateful to have worked with wonderful people like Michael and Kent all these years, and of course we worked with Herb Vincent back in the '90s, and
going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
Herb also going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. So we have a great environment. along with us older veterans, we have a core of younger SIDs as well who do a marvelous job. So, yeah, all that keeps me young, Jacques. I mean, I go to college every day, so I guess that's what keeps me young.
Yeah, and they got you doing stuff like this too now,
Yeah.
where you're in these studios and doing podcasts
Yes,
and all that.
yeah,
So
that's fun.
appreciate all your time, man.
Thank you, Jacques. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming
This is a lot
down.
of
The
fun.
great Bill Franques here on Jacques Talk. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you later.